On October 25, 1994, Rick and Shirley McLeod were spending a peaceful night at home, but around 9 o'clock, that peace was broken when they heard banging on their front door. Standing there was 23-year-old Susan Smith, who was hysterically crying, and told them a horrifying story. On a rural street in Union, South Carolina, a black man approached her car when she stopped at a red light and pointed a gun at her. He forced himself into the car and made her drive. She complied and drove into the night until he told her to stop and get out of the car. He sped off into the night with her children, Alex, who was 1 year old, and Michael, who was 3, crying in the back seat. Rick McLeod immediately called 911.
Yes, ma'am. There's a lady that come up that door, and some guy jumped into a red light with her car with her 2 kids in it, and he took off, and she got out of the car here at our house.
And he's got the kids?
Yes, ma'am, and her car. And she's real hysterical, and I just decided I need to call law and get them down here. Can't even get a figure out which way he's going.
What kind of car is it? We need to know something.
We're trying to ask her now. A Mazda Protege. What color was it? A burgundy Mazda Protege.
Get them going, Pam. I got 2 kids.
Okay.
That's a black guy, she said.
Black male?
Yes, ma'am.
The kidnapping of Susan Smith's children exploded onto national headlines with her dramatic pleas for her children's safe return.
I want to say to my baby that your mama loves you so much, and your daddy and his whole family love you so much. And you guys have got to be strong, because you are, I just know, I just feel in my heart that you're okay.
Susan Smith described to a police sketch artist that the suspect was a black man who was between the ages of 20 and 30 years old, wearing a knitted cap and plaid jacket. This sketch was taped to the windows of every store in Union and circulated in all the major media outlets. For 9 days, Union, South Carolina was the center of a media circus with around-the-clock coverage. The children's disappearance was even reported on America's Most Wanted. Racial tensions were stirred as law enforcement launched a nationwide search, and several black men were detained and questioned. On November 3, 1994, Susan and her estranged husband David, the father of her children, went on all 3 major network morning shows pleading for their children to be brought back to them. Unbeknownst to the general public, the police had found several inconsistencies in Susan's story only 2 days into the investigation. She was interviewed 3 times by investigators, and each time she told a different story. Susan and David both took polygraph tests. David passed the test while Susan's was inconclusive. However, polygraph tests are not permissible in court, but it did give investigators a reason to dig further into her story. After an interview on CBS Morning News, Susan met with Sheriff Wells for another interrogation. It was then that the sheriff told her that he didn't believe her story. Susan was backed into a corner with her lies crumbling around her. She asked the sheriff to pray with her, and then she confessed that she had murdered her 2 children. Her confession to Sheriff Wells would shake the hardened police officer. She explained that after she picked up her kids from daycare, she drove around until about 8 p.m. She claimed that she was depressed and planning to go to her mother's house, but changed her mind. Instead, she went to John D. Lake, and with her kids strapped into their car seats, Susan released the emergency brake and let her car slowly slide into the lake. The police searched the lake, where they found the car with Alex and Michael still in their car seats. A rescue diver said he saw one of the children's hand pressed against the window. In the immediate aftermath, there were many editorials condemning those who were so quick to accept the blame of a black person. Smith's case was compared to another case in Boston, Massachusetts in 1989. Charles Stewart had blamed a black man for killing his pregnant wife, only to be revealed that he was the one that murdered her. It was reported that the reason Susan blamed a black man was to make her story seem more believable through confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs or hypothesis. So in the rural South, where old prejudice dies slowly, Susan Smith's lie of a violent black man confirmed what the majority already believed, so they were more willing to accept her story.
Some folks in the black community tonight tell me that there will be much healing to be done here, and it's going to take quite a while. Let's listen now to some folks, both black and white, how they feel that this healing will take place here in Union County.
They're always accusing black people of doing things that they do themselves.
Anytime you say black man and white woman, it's all over. You know, I mean, that's my opinion.
I feel like the reason that she did that was because it was an easy way.
I just don't want them to believe that somehow what the mother did in any way diminishes the quality, the character, the courage of what they did. And so my thoughts and prayers are with them today. And I would hope the American people would feel that way as well. I think we were all moved and deeply impressed by how that community responded, and this awful turn of events cannot undermine that.
In an effort to make amends, Susan Smith's father-in-law, Charles Smith, apologized on behalf of his family to the black community due to Susan's lie creating racial tension in their community. Susan was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. During the 17-day trial, it was revealed that she had been having an affair with the son of her boss, Tom Finley, while she was still married, although they were in the process of a divorce. The day that she murdered her children, Susan received a letter from Tom ending their relationship. In the letter, Tom wrote, "Susan, I could really fall for you. You have so many endearing qualities about you, and I think that you're a terrific person. But like I've told you before, there are some things about you that aren't suited for me. And yes, I am speaking about your children. I'm sure that your kids are good kids, but it really wouldn't matter how good they may be. The fact is, I just don't want children." According to the prosecution, Susan killed her children so they would no longer be a barrier between her and Tom while gaining sympathy from him. In the end, the jury sided with the prosecution, and she was convicted to 2 counts of murder and sentenced to 30 years to life. On January 8, 2018, 52-year-old Lizzie Dunn braved the Staten Island winter to get to her bus stop. As she was walking, Lizzie was approached by a dark-skinned black woman in her 40s wearing baggy clothes. The woman asked Lizzie for a cigarette, but Lizzie told her that she didn't have any. Then the woman asked for some money, and Lizzie told her no. Lizzie was getting annoyed and wary of the woman, so she turned and started to walk away. Finally, the woman asked, "Do you at least have the time?" Lizzie noticed the woman sounded angry, so she ignored her and continued walking, hoping that she would be left alone. Being ignored enraged the woman, who grabbed Lizzie by the shoulders, turned her around, and repeatedly sprayed Lizzie in the face with acid. Lizzie immediately felt her skin burn. She tried to knock the bottle out of the attacker's hand and shield herself. Her attacker ran away, leaving Lizzie in agonizing pain. Lizzie managed to stumble into a local deli where frantic employees called 911. Deli worker Andrew Kenwood told reporters that it looked like her face was melting off.
It looked like, I don't even know what it was. It was horrible. It really was. It looked like she was in a lot of pain, a lot of pain.
She was rushed to the hospital and was treated for second-degree burns to her neck, face, and left hand. While she was still in the hospital recovering from her injuries, she gave an interview with CBS New York about what happened and how much pain she was in.
My right hand tried to grab the can or knock it off her hand, and with the left hand I was trying to shield whatever spray she was misting on me. Stinging. I feel like the skin's melting. I can't feel my lip, and I'd rather die than to ever feel that pain again, ever.
Acid attacks are uncommon in the United States, and so when the news broke out of the brutal attack, the entire country was shocked. There were fears that there was a deranged woman attacking people with acid. As the NYPD detectives questioned Lizzie, her story began falling apart and just didn't coincide with the injuries she sustained. Just one day later, it was all revealed that attack never happened. There was no deranged black woman, only Lizzie Dunn, who had purposefully injured herself, causing disfiguring second-degree burns. When the police searched her home, they found the spray bottle with what appeared to be homemade acid. and learned that she had a history of self-harm. Once news of the hoax came out, outrage was swift. Many pointed out that it was another case of an imaginary black person being blamed for a horrible crime. This same kind of behavior that got Emmett Till killed. Another tweet stated, "That woman who inflicted her own acid injury is a threat to the public. She filed a false police report and could have gotten an innocent black woman arrested. She should be charged with filing a false police report. She wasted your resources and Crime Stoppers' resources." Lizzie never revealed why she harmed herself or why she lied about being attacked. As of the making of this video, no further information has been released if Lizzie Dunn had ever been charged for making a false report. The members of New Creation Church in Denison, Texas were beginning their evening service on March 8, 2017, as they'd done many times before. However, the peaceful atmosphere was broken when a bloodied and bruised young woman ran into the church begging for help. The young woman was 18-year-old Breonna Harmon Talbot, who was only wearing a shirt, bra, and underwear. She frantically told the churchgoers the harrowing tale that she had been kidnapped from her apartment by 3 black men in ski masks and sexually assaulted behind the church. A few hours earlier, Breonna's fiancé, Sam Hollingsworth, had been calling her repeatedly, but his calls went unanswered. After several attempts, Sam called his neighbor and asked him to check on her. His neighbor went to her apartment and found Breonna's car door wide open. More disturbingly, he saw that the car keys, cell phone, and one of her shoes were all discarded on the ground. He immediately told Sam what he saw. Fearing the worst, Sam called the police and reported Breonna missing. To the Denison police, the scene looked like a textbook abduction, and without delay, they began a search for Breonna, knowing that time was of the essence. The police searched for Breonna throughout the town with a K-9 unit until 8 p.m. that night, when they received a call from Pastor Saul Marquez informing them that Breonna was there. The kidnapping and rescue of Breonna was breaking news on the local news stations and would have likely stayed that way if it were not for a Facebook post posted by Breonna's mother that guaranteed attention throughout the U.S. She posted, "This is going to be a brutally honest post. Today, my daughter was taken by force by 3 black men. 2 raped her, and she is cut head to toe by a knife. They took her engagement ring, her class ring, her earrings, her baby T necklace, everything she had on. She was able to run and ran into a church bleeding from head to toe with no pants on. Someone had to have saw something. This town is small. If anyone hears anything, please call the Denison Police Department." Suddenly, the quiet town of Denison was consumed by fear. As time went by, more details about the kidnapping were revealed. Breonna told detectives that she was approached by the men while coming home from school. They grabbed her from behind and dragged her into a black SUV where she was taken to a wooded area. She was beaten, cut with a knife, and sexually assaulted by 2 of the men, and when they were done, they told her to run. While Breonna was recovering at home, her mother's Facebook posts began spreading across the internet. The post soon grabbed the attention of far-right white supremacist websites and message boards like Stormfront. These followers were outraged by the apparent lack of coverage from the quote-unquote mainstream media. Many repeated the narrative that if the races had been reversed, the story would have been national news. There were those that declared, "Whites need a mafia, so if you want to rape a white girl like Breonna Talbot, the white mafia finds you and your family and puts you down." During the investigation, the town was on edge. Women were warned to be alert in their surroundings as the 3 rapists were still roaming around. And as a result of the suspect's description, black men in the town were worried about being wrongfully arrested for the crime.
We definitely have to speak with someone to prove our whereabouts of when the situation had happened.
Shalimar Traylor's uncle lives at the Creekmore Apartments. He says he thinks he was questioned by police because of the description the woman gave them.
3 black men in a big black Suburban, and a one way in, one way out apartment complex at the back, broad daylight. I mean, things don't add up. And when things don't add up, people are going to talk.
On March 21st, Police Chief Jay Birch held a press conference and revealed that Breonna Talbot's story was a lie. He also said that within only a day or 2, detectives had doubts as to most of Talbot's allegations. Their doubts started when none of her wounds matched up to the holes in her jeans that were discovered at the crime scene. The nurse that did the exam couldn't find any physical evidence of a sexual assault. Brianna eventually admitted that she made the whole thing up. She told police that after a fight with her fiancé, she went to an abandoned house to cut herself. Because she didn't want to make her mom upset over the self-inflicted wounds, she decided to lie about being assaulted by 3 black men. Chief Birch said that the hoax was insulting to the community and especially offensive to the African American community due to her description of the so-called suspects in her hoax. The anger and hurts caused from such a hoax are difficult and all so unnecessary. Brianna and her fiancé Sam broke up. She was indicted on 2 third-degree felony counts of tampering with physical evidence and a third-degree felony count of tampering with a government record. A year after the hoax, she was convicted of those charges, but she didn't get any jail time. The judge sentenced her to 8 years of probation and $10,000 in fines. Thank you for watching our video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember to stay safe.